What's up, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of the Sit Down. As always, if you enjoy this video, please make sure you hit that like button and let me know what you think of today's very interesting discussion in the comments section below. If you're watching us currently live on YouTube, welcome in. Make sure you say hello in the chat to the right of the show. If you're new around here, you just haven't done it yet, or living under a rock and seeing this video for the first time, I don't know what you're waiting for. Hit that subscribe button below now so you never miss another sit down video. Today, ladies and gentlemen, this is a live video, and we have an exclusive brought to you only and only seen here on the sit down. I have been all over the internet discussing the latest case out of New York involving members and associates of the mob, parts of the NBA, and poker cheats all around the country that essentially all conspired together to run poker games that were cheated. Today, we're going to speak to someone that played in those games. What were they really like? What kind of money was flowing in there? And what were the overall layouts? Who was in there? Did he know they were cheated? We're going to talk about all that and more right now. The guy's name is Mike. Now, that's not his real name, but that's his name tonight. Mike, or whatever your name is. I do want to make clear, guys, I verified these stories. Okay. This isn't just some random guy. Me and Mike have been talking for a good amount of time, and we're just kind of, we're not going to put him on camera for this, but what's up, my friend? How are you?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Doing good. So, Mike, what's your age range? Like, you're in your, what are you, in your 40s?
Late 30s.
So when did you start playing poker?
Probably when I was like 14, 15.
So you've been playing a while. Would you consider yourself a pro or?
Not a pro, but pretty good.
And what would you say, like, on a weekly basis? Are you playing, every day, once a week?
Probably 4 to 5 times.
A week?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So these games in New York, like, are they ones that you've played for years? Did you just stumble across this? Did you go to casinos? Like, how are you playing when you first kind of really get into it in, let's say, your 20s?
I've been playing in the home games, underground games for a very long time, like probably at least 20 years.
Okay.
Casinos
Wow.
also, poker, casinos, tournaments, everything else.
So, like, anywhere you can go to play, you'll play. And are you only playing Hold'em? Are you playing PLO? Like, what are you playing mostly?
Hold'em was the big thing for a long time, and then it became PLO. Everybody wanted to play PLO because Hold'em is boring. Once you start playing PLO, it's like crack, like you can't.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, when he says PLO, he's talking about pot limit Omaha. It's 4 cards instead of 2. And if you're playing Hold'em, obviously you can use the 5 community cards. In Omaha, you're using the 4 cards in any combination to match the community. So there's a ton of action. And I would agree probably that when you're playing Omaha significantly every week, you don't really want to go back to Hold'em because it's too slow. So let me ask you, obviously, one of the things about this case that makes it, I think, more of a kind of headline grabber is that there are certain elements of organized crime. You obviously are from the New York area. We can hear kind of the way you talk. Did you know that element was there, and was it okay by you?
Absolutely. No problem with it. I mean, I've been around them my whole life. I've, worked with them. I've, you saw, I showed you, so
yeah. And I will say, your situation, like I've talked to this guy for a good amount of time. I kind of know his situation, who he is. And guys, again, I'm not prying. I'm just trying to make it clear to everybody who the guy is. And we've been talking, and he's been giving me some good stuff on this. So did you feel like, did that make you feel kind of like, not that you're scared or anything, but was the element of having, people there to kind of protect the game, was that important to you?
Yeah, I mean, security is always important. But more like I was friends with a lot of them. So, you don't see them as like dangerous or anything like that because you've been around them so long that it's more like they're friends. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
You're not thinking like, they're bad guys. You know what I mean?
Sure. So obviously in this indictment, there are 2 games that are outlined, one of which is in Greenwich Village. The other was in Midtown, Lexington Avenue. You played mostly at that game, right?
Yeah, Lexington.
Okay. Now, you sent me a photo that I kind of want to throw on the board here, and I want you to kind of explain. So this was a seat you sat at. Explain kind of the chip denominations, like what are the greens, what are the blacks?
Greens are 25, blacks are 100, and blues are 500.
Yeah. Now remember, and you stated this, and anybody that's played poker knows this. When you first start out a game, there's not a huge amount of money on the felt. You're kind of building. But you told me, Mike, that these games would play for days on end.
Yeah, I mean, you start out. This guy's buying in anywhere from like 2 to 5,000, but then the game would go so late. At the towards the end of the night, guys would come in and buy in for match the biggest stack. 20,000, 40,000. So at any point you could have like $400,000-$500,000 on the table.
Yeah, these are huge games. Okay, what were generally the blinds you were playing?
They did a button straddle only, so you just have to whoever's on the button puts the minimum was 25, and then there really was no maximum. I mean, the beginning there was it was like $100 maximum on the button, and then by the end of the night though, people were putting 500 on the button, 1,000 on the button. So in PLO, that gets really big.
Sure. So for anyone that's familiar with poker, obviously, you have your small blind, big blind. In games like this, there may be 3 blinds. There might be 1 blind. And it's just a big blind that pays it, an ante, whatever. There's all sorts of things. In these games, you kind of decide as a table. Was that a norm that it was just the one big blind?
Yeah, that was how it was there.
Okay.
Everybody liked that too. You know what I mean? It was it kind of prevented the straddling. You know what I mean? There was really no straddling. It was just the button straddle. It was really the only blind.
Okay, got you. So let me kind of backtrack. So when did you start playing at that location?
Probably in 2023.
Okay, it's a couple of years ago. Did you ever play at the other game or just that one?
No, I never played the other game. The other game didn't go too long.
Yeah, because then it kind of consolidated anyway, right?
Yeah, they split up. The guy went his separate way, one of the partners.
Yeah, and we know what happened to him, allegedly. Yeah. Okay. So describe kind of what this is like. So you when you walk in, there's is it one house? Is it an apartment? What is it?
It's like a penthouse building. So, they would actually Uber you if you want. They would pay for your Ubers.
Like from your house?
What's that?
Like from your house?
Yeah, they would just send you an Uber wherever you were, bring you there. They would send you an Uber home. Some guys would live far away. Ubers were $200, $300. They would do it. Didn't matter. So you get to the penthouse. There's a door. There was usually a guy or two at the door, security. There was a camera, obviously, to go upstairs. They would call upstairs. They would say, yeah, he's okay. Then they would bring you an elevator. You go up to the elevator. The elevator brought you right to the penthouse.
You walk in. How many tables were there?
When you walk in, there was one main table right there with like a kitchen, like a hallway and a bunch of rooms, bathrooms. Then you go upstairs. There's another room with a table. So they had a second table. And then there was a third floor and then a rooftop.
Wow. So this is a nice spot.
Oh, yeah. So, the place is really nice.
But there were generally like one table on one floor and a table on another?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you had the main table, like the main game. And then if they had overflow, they would start a second table, like a must move almost. So, if somebody left the other table, they would start filling in.
Now, as far as you, like you played there pretty regularly, were you always guaranteed a seat at that table?
I mean, if I wanted it, but sometimes it depends. If you saw like big action guys at the other table, you wanted to be at the other table. You want to be wherever the action guys are. The bad players.
Yeah, sure. Well, and I also think like the big question with these games, like, how do you stumble across them? Is it just kind of a circuit thing where everybody knows, and you just
you play in certain games. A lot of the dealers, they deal a lot of different games. So dealers like they're like expected to bring players to the games. So because the dealers are making really good money, so in order to get a dealer job, they say, okay, we got to bring me 2 players. You know what I mean? So all these dealers, you meet a dealer at one game, they see you can play, you got money, they'd be like, oh, I got another game, and over here, if you want to come play, let me know. And then that's how it really goes. It's everybody knows each other in that circuit. It's a very it's not that it's close knit, but everybody knows. If you live in the tri-state area, like the big games. If you play underground, like you're gonna know all those games. You know what I mean? So dealer would go like I that's how I got in the game. One of the dealers was a good friend of mine. And in hindsight, like you were just asking about, do you always get a seat? Like now that like knowing everything that was going on with the cheating, like, of course you're gonna get a seat if you're a cash player and you have money, because they're gonna
Yep.
want to rob. They don't want to rob the cash guys. You know what I mean?
Sure. Makes sense. When you first started, the game was on the up and up?
No, definitely not.
Okay. Well, before we get to that, I want to ask you about some of the other things inside this. From what I understand, there were like pretty women there. They have
Yeah, very pretty.
yeah.
Like
They get you
10.
food
You know
if
what I mean?
yeah.
You know, like at least like 5 or 6 of them. They would, you know, the game runners would pay for your massages. They would pay for everything. I mean, you really can do anything you want. You know, you want to take, you know, there's certain girls that you could do whatever you want. You know, you want a room, they'll do whatever you want with them. You know.
Wow. And I'm guessing there would be people there to give you a loan if you want.
Oh yeah, tons of credit. You know.
Yeah. Wow. So this is a great game. This is I think what a lot of people like when you go to play at a casino, like something that's kind of dingy. This sounds like a great place to go play. You know, there's a lot of amenities. It's clean. There's security. But as you said, you know, the game was never on the up and up. When did you realize the game was cheated?
I mean, I probably played there a total like 4 or 5 times, maybe 4 to 6 times. I got to be honest, like probably the first time. But again, like my friend was the one who got me there. He's a dealer. So to me, I'm just like, there's no way, because he would never, ever, ever do that to me, you know. But he didn't know either. So, you know, now knowing how they were doing it, like he didn't need to know. The dealer doesn't need to know, you know. So he wasn't really doing anything malicious. He just didn't know either. You know what I mean? And you got to remember, like casino games, you know, you got to pay up front to get chips. And these games, they're giving tons of credit, so you could. It's a lot more action. It's, you know, casino game, you could sit there. You know, nobody's playing hands. In a house game, everybody's playing. You know, there's a lot of action.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, obviously, I'm not asking for you to put anybody's name out, like who's playing, but what kind of players are these? Are these people with deep pockets? Are these crypto people? Like, what's kind of what were the people like that played?
You had a mixture of both. You had like, you know, you had street guys, like young street kids that made money, all different ethnicities. Then you had businessmen, like, you know, guys, you know, own companies, own restaurants, own bars, own clubs, strip clubs, you know, everything. They're all different types.
What was the biggest pot you ever saw in a game?
In that game or just
S-
any game?
Like single pot in that game?
Uh, well over 100,000.
Wow. Now, how did the rake work?
They took whatever they wanted.
Okay, so like on a pot like that, what are they taking?
If I had to guess, they probably took out 5,000.
Wow. And it's just simple like palming. They don't care.
Yeah, like, 'cause, you know, a lot of dealers are good at it, you know, and a lot of people, you know, you're in a pot that big, you're not paying attention. You know what I'm saying? You're just
Sure.
like,
You're
you're not
worried
even
about
paying
your
attention to
card.
the counting, to the amount. And a lot of the guys, you know, like me, I count everything. Like I know, you know, how much was in there and how much they took. But, you know, when they're raking like that and they're giving so much credit, you really don't mind, because it's like the chips, there's so many chips on the table that you could, you know, you could beat the game if you don't play in the game for 3 days straight. You know, if you could just hit the game and run, you can make money. If you sit there for hours and days, you're gonna lose.
And were there people that did that?
Yeah, there were guys that would be there 2, 3 days, and they'd send out a text like, "Oh, so and so is opened up. He's bleeding everywhere. Come here, come play." People be leaving work to come play.
Wow.
You know.
Now, what were those kind of people? Were they just like crypto people with a ton of money or what?
Yeah, finance guys. You know, guys working in finance, hedge fund guys, real estate guys. Like I said, businessmen, owners of clubs and restaurants and pizzerias and all that, everything.
Sure. There's a reference in one of the indictments in that game in particular that one person lost nearly $2 million. Do you know who that is?
I mean, I have an idea, you know, but like I said, I don't, you know, I'm not going to give really names, but
Sure. No
I have
problem.
an idea. But, you know, I saw guys lose easily 200,000, 300,000, like it was nothing.
And were there like outside of we obviously haven't gotten into the cheating yet, but were there like people in these games that were consistent winners?
Yeah, so absolutely. So that's another thing, you know, that I noticed, you know, because every time I'd go, there'd be the same guys at the main table, and they would always be winning. And there'd be the same guys always losing, you know. So every time I played, like I said, I knew the dealer, so I'm not thinking there's anything going on because, and I know before the shuffle machine, there was other things that people used. There were like these poker analyzers, they had phones, car keys, like all these things. So I knew what to look for, and I didn't see any of it. So to me, I'm just like, what could they be doing? Like, how could they had a shuffle machine? You think like, how could it be doing it? You're looking for hand signals, you're looking for signs, and I didn't see any. So like, I really can't call it out because like I said, I don't see anything. So if I don't see anything, how am I going to call it out?
Sure. And that's one thing about like the poker cheating. Like a lot of the time it's pretty rudimentary on how they do it. They'll just hand signal or something like that. This for them, like this, you would agree this is a really covert way to cheat, right?
Absolutely. When I heard, when I finally figured out like how it was being done, it's just like, wow, that has to be it. That's how they were doing it because there was no other way. There's no other way. You're covering your cards, you put your hands over your cards, your chips are like you're saying. There's no way they could see 4 cards when you have them on top of each other. So how could it, you know what I mean? It's Omaha, so you have 4 cards on top of each other with your hand on top. So how could they be seeing what cards you have? Like it's.
But didn't you feel like maybe right away, like the fact that, look, again, like when you go to a casino, you can be on your phone, obviously, but it's a casino. Didn't you find that like with the shuffler and the fact that people are all on their phones, like didn't that set a little bit of an alarm bell off maybe?
No, because like I said, nobody knew these shuffle machines could be like rigged like that. And on top of
Okay.
that, like again, like I said, when you're in a pot, you're playing for that type of money. You're not paying attention to everybody, what everybody's doing. You're paying attention to the guy you're playing against, the money in the pot, you know what I mean? The girl who's massaged, all that stuff is to get your head, not thinking about that. You know what I mean? So it's, when you don't have a sharp guy, like guys that are just business guys that really aren't poker players, they're not paying attention to any of that. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, he's a young kid, he's on the phone. What's the big deal? You know what I mean? He's
So
probably texting.
well, that makes sense. And yeah, as you said, like there's so much going on. You're trying to read people, you're trying to do different things. So when did you realize like this game's definitely fucked? There's something going on here.
Like, yeah, like the last time I played, there was no way. Like I played, like I said, 4 to 6 times. I don't consider myself the best player in the world, but I'm gonna tell you, like, I've never played 6 sessions in a row and never won, especially in Omaha. Like it's just, one time, 2 times, you're like, all right, it's poker. It is what it is. What it is. It happens. It's Omaha. They play crazy hands. But when you really start to think about it and you know what you're doing, and you see a guy, 4 guys in a pot with 1 card to come, and they're calling a $15,000 bet with 1 card to come, and then boom, and the only card in the world that can make them win, and they just rip that card off, and you're like, how the hell did this guy call $15,000 and he had a gut shot, and it couldn't be a club or a diamond because everybody else has a flush draw, and he hits a gut shot, the 1 card. Why was he in on the flop? Why was he in on the turn? Why was he
It's almost
calling
like he
10
knew.
bucks? It's of course it's like you knew, and that's the problem is greed. Because if they would have done it just the right way, with just folding those hands and waiting for the right moments, they could have been doing this forever. You know what I mean? They could have got me forever. You know what I mean?
So they were
But
just so blatantly
so
cheating that.
blatant, so greedy and blatant.
And you also said to me that like, and you kind of just talked about it. You would agree that like there's no need to do this anyway because like they're making a ton of money through the rake as it is.
Absolutely. I mean, a game that goes 2-3 days, that type of game, you're raking between $50,000 and $100,000 just in rake. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I get it. It's just the greed. You want to make an extra 200,000, 300,000. You know what I mean? But you could have had this going on for years.
Wow. So it's not only are they greedy to like cheat, but they're cheating like incessantly.
Exactly. Like, how much can you kill a guy? Like, you want to take 5, 10,000 from a guy, that's fine. But these guys, they want to take 100,000 and 200,000, 300,000. You're only going to kill your own game doing that.
Now, was there like an active like interest in getting as many big players as possible?
Of course, like that would be the thing. Like they would send out a text, like, "Oh, everybody know." Like I said, everybody knows everybody. So they would send out a text and be like, "Oh, Jeff's coming tonight, and he's looking to get back from the 300 he lost last week, and everybody be like, "Oh, I got to get there because this guy's gonna lose 300,000. I want to get that." You know what I mean?
Wow. So it's like a feeding frenzy. Like
Yeah, like when I would get a text, my first text back would be like, "Give me the lineup. Like I want to know who's playing. I want to know, who's in the game. Because if it's a shitty game, I'm not gonna waste my time."
I don't want you to name names, but was there one person in particular that was just terrible and had a ton of money and just donked money off?
There were more than one. There was
Okay.
a lot more than one.
So, like, what would it have taken? Like, would you drop everything to go play if you knew that guy was there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would if I had an open heart surgery, I would put it off to just go play.
Wow.
Not just that game, like any game. You know what I mean?
So this is kind of open season. Like they were, and again, this is what poker is. If you're at a table and there's a drunk guy and he's just throwing money at you, you just keep bleeding him. I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah, you're looking
Um,
for the worst possible players. You know what I mean? With the most money.
so you mentioned, it was half dozen times you played and you realized you weren't winning at any of them, which is kind of difficult, especially in PLO. Will you tell us how much you lost?
I mean, out of the 6 sessions, probably somewhere between 50 and 80,000.
Okay. Now that was credit or
I mean, the last time, it was always credit because I would never go somewhere and bring that type of walk
sure.
around with that type of money. But like my name was good, so they like I said, who's good, who's bad. Like I'm not gonna ruin my reputation, being that I play everywhere for a couple $1,000s. So I always paid like either the next day or gave it to somebody. They came to meet you, you went to meet them, or the next week at the game you would just pay them. But the
now.
last time, that was it. I said that I got credit. It was like 20. It was either 20 or 25,000. And I just knew it in my heart. I knew it, and I was like, "Listen, I'm not paying you. I don't care. You do what you got to do. I'm not paying you."
What did they say?
Well, so they knew, they knew who I was. They knew who I knew, and it wasn't so much threat. It was more like just like a conversation, like why and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Listen, man. I'm like, I'm not dumb. I'm like, God bless you. You doing what you're doing." I was like, but I'm not stupid, and if if you want to make it a problem, we can make it a problem. If not, we let it go and we just move along, and I won't come no more. I won't say anything to anybody, just do your thing, because I'm not going to knock anybody's hustle, but you're not going to rob me. I wasn't even asking for the money I lost previously back. I just said, I'm not giving you this, and that's it. And then it kind of just like went and never heard about it again. I think he shot me a text to try to call me one time after that about it. And I was like, bro, I'm like, we already talked about this. Like, I'm not going to have this conversation. So.
Now we obviously have seen and I'll ask you this first. So you weren't surprised at all by this?
No, not at all. Because like I said, like after I found out about the rigged shuffle machines, I knew about that before this indictment. So, I knew that that's what they were doing. There was no way that they weren't,
So I guess like my question I also am curious about there obviously is the OC element here, which is pretty normal, but there was also a group of kind of like scammy type people, like the guy that started his own game, people like that. Were they known cheat? Like, did you know they were like no good? A lot of them.
There was one guy specifically that I knew was a cheater that was there one time playing, and I brought it up. I said something to one of the guys who run the game, and they were like, "Yeah, but no one ever caught him actually doing it." But I knew, I knew. I knew. I don't want to say how I knew, but I knew, and I was like, "All right." I'm like, but he's definitely not doing anything. And I'm looking at him. I was paying attention. He wasn't doing anything. Now that I, because I didn't know about the shuffle machine, so he probably was doing it. He probably was working for them.
Wow. So do you still play these games?
Not those games. I mean, I still play, but the games that I do play in, I know, and I try to stick more to casinos now if I'm going to play. And like I said, I do play, in house games, but again, like if I even feel like that something's going on, like I just get up and I leave, But I haven't felt like that, because like I said, now I know everything to look for. You know what I mean? I sort of like learned about everything, and because like years ago, I caught someone doing it, and I figured out how they were doing it, and then that's how I really knew about the first part of how they were doing cheating before the shuffle machines and the X-ray tables with the analyzers.
Sure. Now, out of all, like, there's dozens of games like this. Like, would you say most of them are pretty straight?
Probably, if I had to guess, probably 80% are good, 20% are bad.
Somebody's asking, how do these games not get found out by the cops?
Cops don't care. What do they care?
Yeah, they don't care.
You know what I mean? They only care if something like this happens. Famous
There's a lot
people,
bigger
the
problems in New
NBA,
York City, right?
organized crime. You know what I mean? But these games have been going on forever. Like nobody, the police don't care about this. They only care if there's drugs, you know, things like that. You know, but they don't care about just a regular poker game. You know, because it's hard for them to prove anything because they got to get somebody in to see that they're raking the pot. Because it's not illegal to have a poker game.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
it's illegal to rake the pot. So if you can't get somebody in or somebody to like, you know, film
Undercover,
it or
right?
undercover, then, you know, and these games are pretty tight knit. Like you're not going to have some stranger just come walking in the game, you know,
Yeah,
especially like a game like that's a big game like that.
sure. Yeah, these are not, again, like a 10-cent, 20-cent game with your friends, you know?
Yeah. It's not like posted online, like, oh, come play with us tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right, right. Okay. So overall, obviously one of the big things about this story is twofold. You know, there's the word, you know, the M word that everybody loves to say, but there's also the NBA element. You would agree though that, and again, I'm not asking you to say names, but did you ever play with Chauncey Billups?
Yes.
You did.
I played with him. I played with Russell Westbrook, Paul Pierce. What's the guy's name? He used to play for the Spurs. And he played for the Knicks also. He was a big guy. Forget his name. It was like right after like Duncan.
Knicks and Spurs. Aldridge?
No. He was a big guy. If you said his name, I would know.
Now again, this is in New York?
Yeah, oh yeah, New York games. Because like we talked, like I played in Irv Gotti's game, like when he had a game, and Irv Gotti had, you know, Russell Westbrook played there, Paul Pierce played there.
So no, in terms of like, you never played with them in this game though.
No, not in this game. No.
Okay. Yeah, that was my overall question. Because
No.
I've tried to kind of explain to people that like Chauncey Billups wasn't in this game. He was in other games that were poker games, not in New York though.
Correct.
But you're
that's
saying
more like the LA ones.
Yeah,
the LA
sure.
games. New York was more like I said, business owners and like, you know, guys like that. Nobody really famous, you know what I mean?
So the Irv Gotti game, I know that was a popular one. I've heard a lot about that. So you play with a lot of athletes, and that would be like when they came into like, you know, for like a home game or away game, I mean?
Yeah, or the off season, or if they were just in New York. And then, you know, he'd have other rappers would play in the game. You know, a lot of famous people playing, actors were playing the game. Poker professionals were playing the game. You know, Phil Ivey played in the game. Phil Hellmuth played in the game.
Did Irv's game have shufflers or?
No, not then. No, his game, I got to be honest, I think was straight. It may have, because that was when like the first analyzers started coming out and nobody knew about them. So it's possible the people were doing it, because all you need, like with that is all you need is a dealer to get the cards in the game, and that's it.
Do you think that like these indictments will stop these games?
No, not at all.
So like they're probably going on tonight, right?
That's like asking, like, you know, if sports gambling indictment's going to stop sports gambling bookies. I mean,
Or like if they raid a drug corner, it's not going to stop.
Nobody's going to stop selling drugs, you know.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess my question is like, why do you think this was even pursued?
I think just because of the famous people involved.
Yeah.
That's really it. And, you know, and the M word people, you know, they want to just like make it like a sensational thing. Because trust me, if none of them were involved, you wouldn't even be hearing about this. The only thing you might be hearing about is somebody, you know, figured it out and went in there and started shooting everybody.
Yeah, it was a good coupling of like big buzzwords that can be used in titles and stuff and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as, I guess my final question in terms of this stuff, like, did this, you kind of made it clear this kind of turned you off, at least from playing in these types of games. But like, I have to ask, if some of these people called you again and they said that guy was going to be that lost a ton of money, would you maybe give it another shot?
I mean, I'd have to go on my terms. No shuffle machines, you know, dealer, no phones on the table, no car keys on the table, no water bottles on the table. Like, it basically have to be like a, you know, nothing on the table, and, you know,
yeah,
everybody got to pay up front. I don't want to see credit, you know.
Well, that's another question I had. Like, were there people that would bring cash, or was it like Bitcoin? How did that work?
They would do, you know, crypto would be a big way, and then you know, some people brought cash. They would bring, you know, let's say 5K with them, 10K with them, just to pay the first, you know, first buy-in. You know, just so the guys, so that, you know, guys have money to pay people. But you would never ever win, and they would pay like that day. It was always, we'll see you next week. Because the thing is, you got to remember, like, they want you to come back, so they're gonna say, okay, you know, we'll pay you. You know, I got to go collect all the money, so I'll pay you next week when you come to the game. So they want you to come back and hopefully lose that money that you won, or, you know, if you owe them money, they want you to come back because they want to just bury you. You know, you want to keep playing, try to get your money back, but you can't because they're cheating. So they're just going to keep burying you.
One other thing, obviously, you mentioned like getting into these games would be pretty difficult for some sort of cop or police or whatever. Would you think that there has to be somebody that brought this case to them, right?
Absolutely. Has to be. You know, somebody either that was being threatened or you know, scared or owed money. You know, so it had to be something like that, you know, because otherwise there was no, like I said, unless somebody got arrested for something else and they said, I could give you this, and you know how it works.
Yeah. So when did you stop playing there?
Probably in the end of 23, beginning of 24.
So you didn't play too long.
No, because like I said, you know, once I found out about the shuffle machines, and I knew that that's what they would do, and I was like, yeah, that's it for me. I ain't going in no more. They would still ask me to come. I'd be like, nah, I'm good. You know, I'm okay.
This is
like, it was more insulting too, because like you're trying to like rob me, and you know who I am, and like that's why it got me even more upset, because it's like you're trying to rob me, but like you know who I am, and like why wouldn't you just be like, don't come, you know, don't come, you know?
Right. Now I mentioned, obviously, you know, it's alleged that for years, you know, the certain groups have controlled these games. They have some sort of interest in them. Do you think that I mean, obviously they were aware of this was going on. Do you think it was probably a bad idea that they allowed that to go on in the games?
I mean, not for them so much, because they're gonna keep making money and, you know, shaking down games all the time. The guys who run the games, I think it's so short sighted, because it's like, why would you want to ruin your
Good
name
thing.
first of all, and you know your income? I mean, a lot of guys that run games, that's all they do, you know, and they kick the money up to these guys just in case something like this does happen. Like, let's say a guy finds out they were cheating and he wants to make a problem, you know, they have their backup that could squash that problem for them.
Deal with it, right?
So that's why
Yeah.
they pay, you know, everybody. And depending on what area they're in, they got to pay certain people.
Yeah, it's kind of like making a ton of money selling cocaine, and then you decide, well, I'm gonna sell fentanyl now. It's just kind of like,
Yeah, it just
why
it
mess a
don't
good
make
thing
any,
up?
like I said, if they would have just did it legitimately, they could still made a fortune.
Yeah, that's the biggest, I think, head scratcher to me in all this is that, you know, it's not like they're making penny ante steaks here. They're making a lot of money off each pot. Everything's working well. But as we know, I mean, this will kind of just one door closes, another one will open. Do you think people are on notice now? Do you think this will stop as far as cheating?
Yeah, like this coming out, like really, you know, a lot of people had no idea that like shuffle machines could be rigged. No one had ideas. They were analyzers that could read the cards and tell you who's going to win. A lot of people didn't know, but now, you know, because it used to be like at first there was X-ray, you know, not X-ray, but like the invisible ink they had on the cards, and people wear contact lenses and shit. You know, that
They
stuff.
were doing that in this.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't think they were really doing that. Maybe at some point, but everybody kind of knew about that. You got to wear these big purple glasses. You know what I mean? Like it looks awful, you know.
Noticeable.
And that was really how it first started. But now, you know, now everybody, you know, seeing this on the news and seeing like all this cheating stuff. Yeah, a lot of people are gonna be like, a lot of games are gonna like fall apart, and a lot of guys are probably like thinking like, wow, I never won over there. They were probably doing this. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are like, even bad players who, you know, probably were losing legitimately are like, I knew they were doing something to me. You know what I mean?
So, do you think that like a lot of these people will stop playing in these games, or do you think it's just how gambling is and people just chalk it up and say, "Well, I'm sure it'll be fine, and I'm just going to keep playing"?
I mean, a lot of people, you know, a lot of games did die because the casinos, you know, opened. Like Parks Casino hurt a lot of games because it was close to the New York, New Jersey area. You know, you could drive in your car, you play legitimately. The only thing is, like I said, it's just like with DraftKings and you know, FanDuel and all these sites. you got to put your money up front. In the
Yep.
home games, you don't have to. So if you don't have the cash, you want to go play on credit, you could go to these home games, you know?
It's like a bookmaker, right?
Exactly.
Well, Mike, this is fascinating. You know, it almost makes me want to play in games like this. I'm not sure if they'll let me in though, as far as that's concerned. But is there anything else you kind of want to say on this? You know, I'm guessing that you know, it'll be interesting to see what goes on. As I think most people know that are familiar with how this all works, most of these people will probably plea. You know, a lot of this stuff is, for the most part, pretty. It's not that serious. No one's going to go to jail for 10 years over this.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
mean the guys who are in the games just working, like cheating, like, you know, working for them. What are they gonna get? Maybe probation. They're gonna try to get them to, like, you know, flip on something else or tell them something, you know,
Mhm.
serious. But I mean, this is gonna be a big, you know, a big. How do you do? I mean, it's nothing. You know what I mean? No one's doing, like you said, 10 years or nothing like that. It's
Yeah.
just crazy how intricate, like, those shuffle machine, how it works. Like it really is. It is mind boggling that, like, they could figure that out.
No,
It's
you almost
crazy.
need to take a class on how to like do all this stuff.
I mean,
Um,
when you think about it, it's hard, but when you figure out how it's done, it's not hard. It's very easy.
it's
You
pretty
know?
easy, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm going to ask this finally, and then I'll let you go. I'm sure probably not going to answer, but did anybody ever get? I'll use this word, like, fresh with anybody there. Was there any like? Did you ever see anybody like get upset over something? Was there any
Oh yeah,
beef?
yeah. I saw guys get smacked around. I heard guys getting threatened and yelled at. You know, but like I said, that's part of anything. You know, that's, you know, it's gonna happen anyway. Guys get too drunk. You know what I mean? But I've definitely seen people, you know, get slapped around. You know, threatened. But
Would you say
so
in your
far,
lifetime you're up playing poker?
oh, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. That's a
Yeah,
long time. You've been playing like 30 years.
yeah, no, absolutely, without a doubt. I mean,
Wow.
I'm not saying, you know, millions, but definitely a winning player. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, cool, Mike. I appreciate you coming on and sharing kind of your experience. It doesn't seem like you were too surprised.
No.
And yeah, I guess this will teach some people a lesson. But in terms of the games themselves, I think they'll continue. Um, Mike, I thank you for jumping on with me. Stay in touch. I'm sure I'll talk to you on the other platform that we chat on, and I appreciate you chatting with me.
You got anything else? Let me know.
Yeah, I will. Thanks, Mike.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
Um, so how about that? Who's doing that? Who's taking you inside these games? Nobody. They do is. It was good stuff. I was really curious about what it was really like in those games. And I know for a fact and beyond a reasonable doubt that that individual plays in a lot of games. That individual is very tied in. So I thank him for teaching us a little bit about them. You know, I play poker. I'm more of a hold'em kind of guy. I've played Omaha. You know, I just don't. I don't as always have the time anymore. But you know, in the summer, you know, I played. I went out to Hustler and played. I'm actually going out to Hustler here in a couple of weeks to play again. So, you know, I like poker. I know a lot of people in that cohort. So, what we'll do now, guys, I'll kind of hang out for a bit. If anybody has any questions, want to talk about anything, feel free to ask. If you enjoy what we're doing here on this channel, I feel like we've done some pretty good work lately. Feel free to send in a super chat, support the channel. It means a lot. You know, anybody, whether you're hitting the like button, you're, you know, commenting in the chat, you're watching the videos, you're giving us some engagement, it means a lot. But if you'd like to do more and you'd like to contribute to our channel, feel free to hit that little dollar sign at the bottom of the chat. I do want to bring something up. I've got some pretty good shows lined up here in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to do one more show about this topic. I'm going to talk about someone that I believe has served this case up on a silver platter and some of the things that he's been up to over the years. And then I have some stuff coming out next week on, I wanted to review and kind of teach and tell everybody what is wrong now with mob documentaries. I'm going to talk about that next week. I watched the Joey John Stanfa documentary, and I'm going to give that a review next week. So yeah, I feel like it's been a whirlwind with this whole gambling NBA poker thing, and I've done, you know, I got a bunch of interviews coming out on it. I did Julian Dory again. I think that's out tomorrow. I went up and did that on Monday. I've talked to some newspapers. I'm doing a show in Vegas tomorrow. I'm not going out there, just over Zoom. But this has just been kind of a whirlwind, because this has kind of been like a confluence of everything that I am involved in, whether it be sports betting, poker, the mob stuff. So it's all kind of a confluence for me. Thank you. Andrew Robertson says, top notch as usual. Appreciate it. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. What's going on? Mark, how you doing, man? Oh, look at this. Black Cat 997, $5. Keep up the good work. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate that. Thank you for showing some love tonight. Ira from Staten Island, I see you in here. What's going on? Snake, thank you for watching. Shout out to everybody checking out what we're doing here tonight. Really appreciate it. Ollie, €9.99. Thank you, Ollie. Appreciate that. Keep up the good work. Thank you, my brother. I will. I'm always going to try to. That's what we try to do here. That was great. Your last video on this topic was some of your best work. Good job. Thank you, Ryan Finley. Yeah, I would say that, I think it did its job. I feel like we tried to explain it in the best way we could. And, yeah, it's been fun. So thanks for checking it out. Dan Tundis, $5. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that, bro. Good stuff, Jeff. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Everyone's playing up the mob angle. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Now, again, there's definitely mobsters involved, and we have been on the forefront of who they are. I do want to update some people. Andrew Ruggiero, I posted this yesterday, still locked up. I think he's the only defendant in this case still locked up. Angie has some witness intimidation or witness tampering in his past, conspiracy to commit murder. So he's court-sided for now. It's amazing because Joe Lonnie got bail. Kind of crazy. Joe Lonnie just pled guilty to a case and is going to get over 6 years in prison, and he got bail. It's kind of wild. You've got to get that guy John Aylett in your show. John Aylett's never coming on this show. So sorry, Uncle Charlie. That's not going to happen. I'll talk about John Aylett here soon. Not right now, though. What's going on, Mike? Thank you for watching, Mike. Mike Goomba. What's up, Mike? How you doing? So yeah, that's that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed that little kind of look into what these games are like and what's the atmosphere and how they all worked. Good show. Is there a chance we'll get a Merlino interview someday? Probably not. I mean, who knows? I mean, I feel like there's not really much to ask Joey. I mean, the things that I want to ask him, he's not going to answer. So I think we've kind of gotten to that point where it's like, you know what? Why even push it? Who didn't get bail? Ruggiero. What about the guy that got busted for using the LA Dodgers pitcher's money? Yeah, we've interviewed that guy. Well, not him, but the bookmaker that did it. So yeah. By the way, I don't know if I should bring this up, but I will. Did anybody hear about? There's a certain mob content creator on here that lied about his cat in a pet calendar. Did you guys hear about that? Pretty insane. Some of the people on here, I had to say, look, we all know, it's not always easy. I had my little day in the sun, but some of the people on here, man, are fucking ubats, man. I mean, they are fucking ubats. My God. The things you hear on here for some of these people is insane. I went to Skinny's last week. They said all good about you. Thank you. Well, that's nice. Thank you for them. Thank you for that, Christopher. Yeah, most of those guys are good people. Thank you for that to those guys. Do you believe that the Pittsburgh and LA mob is involved? No, that was another creation by Scott Bernstein. We know Scott makes up pretty much everything he talks about. No, Scott is literally, I wonder when Scott says things like where this shit comes from. Scott also called Shane Hennon an alleged informant. No, Scott, he's an informant. There's paperwork on it. In fact, I talked to the guy he cooperated against. He's a good guy. His name's Franco. Very nice guy. So, Scott, where do you come up with this? Scott is obsessed with the mafia. He wants the mob to be the most powerful thing. The LA mob, Scott, seriously? The LA mob hasn't been active in fucking 30 years. Pittsburgh? What? Scott, a couple of bookmakers doesn't make you a mob. He's talking about this guy and that guy. The Gambinos are controlling Pittsburgh. Scott, seriously. And let me tell you something, Scott. If that's true and they were dealing with Shane Hennon, this life is over. Because Shane Hennon is a longtime mob informant. Well, not mob informant, but a longtime informant. Cooperated in 2009. Yeah, that's more of Scott's fantasy worlds. Did I discuss the Ravens situation? The Ravens. This isn't a sports show. I'm not sure what you mean. That's crazy. Some of these guys didn't get bail. There's no violence in this case. Well, yeah, you definitely missed it. There is violence in this case for sure. There's a Hobbs Act robbery. There's a beating. There's definitely violence. But from all we know, Mr. Ruggiero was not involved with that. So he should have definitely got bail. But again, it has nothing to do with whether there's violence or not. Mr. Ruggiero has a witness tampering charge in his past. And you're always going to have trouble getting bail in a federal case when you witness tampered. This government has had major problems with people ordering things behind bars, and that has ruined it for everybody else. How are Joey's cheesesteak? Listen, Mike, I don't know. Watch like thousands of reviews on the place. I've commented on it already. I'm blown away that people are still asking me about the cheesesteaks, man. Like they're good. I feel like there's been enough reviews that can explain. Go get some, Mike. I would urge you to do that. Then you can find out yourself. And you could support those guys. Am I going to go to the opening of Skinny Joey's new location? We'll see. We'll see if they have an opening and when it is. But I know they're opening one in Delaware County. What LA mob? You mean the Armenians? No, he means like the Dragna crime family. Do you know any good books on Tony Spilatro? No, I don't. Shane had tried singing on Ramo, and it didn't work out too well for him. Rimo. Yeah, well, he has a history of cooperating, so that's no surprise. What's my favorite mob film? All time, probably Gotti. I would also say The Irishman. I love The Irishman. But probably Gotti, 96 version. The Armenians run LA. Yeah, agreed. So Billups had nothing to do with sports betting, just poker. Incorrect. Mr. Billups was involved in both indictments, as far as we know. Now, in the first indictment, the sports betting indictment, he's involved as co-conspirator 8. He's not named, but he is co-conspirator 8. The Ravens finagled Lamar Jackson's injury report. Yeah, I've heard that. That's bullshit. It's simple injury stuff. It's nothing to do with anything going on here. Jeff, how involved in illegal gambling houses do you believe Albanians are in the 5 boroughs? I'm not sure. I wouldn't know. I would think they definitely have some involvement for sure. They're big gambling people, probably up in the Bronx and places like that. Uncle Charlie, is Zachary or related to Anthony Ruggiero, Gene Borealis' cousin? Uncle Charlie, I don't know what you're talking about. Anthony Ruggiano, you mean? Not Anthony Ruggiero. I don't know what you're talking about. Jeff, I'm late, but I made it. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for watching. Does Rosario Gambino's son have a presence in organized crime in L.A.? He owns a wine company. According to Scott, he does. But, thank you, Andrew. I'm always trying to give the truth. What is this here? Show comments on stage. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. That's kind of cool. I didn't know they could do that now. I just see that here. Show comments on stage. How about that? Wow. StreamYard's getting cooler and cooler. That's pretty cool. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap this thing up. I thank you for checking out this show. I hope you enjoyed the interview and kind of look into what this poker game was like. If you did, make sure you comment below. Do me a favor, guys, before we go. I'm going to put this out there because I really believe in this product. A lot of you guys like to bet on sports, okay? And I've told you all about Profit X. You can bet right now on Profit X in states like California, in Texas, New York, Florida, Pennsylvania, all those places you can bet on sports. Go click that link right there. Get yourself an account, deposit. You're going to get some of the best lines you'll find. So, for instance, if the Eagles are -6, I mean, generally you're going to get them at 5.5 for Profit X. The price is important. Make sure you're getting the best price. Click that link right there. If you need to use my promo code, it's Jeff Nadu, all one word. Get yourself an account. I use Profit X. I love Profit X. Go use it now. All right, I'm out, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time, Thursday, here on the Sit Down. Not Thursday, Saturday. We'll be back Saturday. Later. Tomorrow's Thursday. See you guys.